Assalamualaikum everyone. In this video we'll see the SQL constraints, what are SQL constraints and what are the different types of SQL constraints and how to specify them. Okay? So constraints are what? They are nothing but set of rules and regulation that you are specifying on the data. Okay? They are set of nothing but rules or they are nothing but set of rules that you're imposing on the data. Okay? For example, roll number. Or for example, phone number. Phone number cannot have alphabets or cannot have anything other than digits, right? So if you are entering, if you are entering your phone number and by mistake or intentionally if you enter, instead of digits if you enter something else as well, okay, special characters or alphabets or anything. So the database should give you a warning saying that, or a message saying that a phone number cannot have alphabets or any other thing other than digits, or this is not valid. Okay, it should give you a statement like this. So constraints are nothing but set of rules that are imposed on the data for maintaining data consistency and data accuracy. Okay, clear? Now these are the following types of constraints in SQL. Not null constraint. Not null means what? Okay, before that, constraints can be column level or it can be table level. You can apply the constraint to a specific column in a table, specific columns in a table, or you can apply the constraints for the entire table. Okay? So not null. Not null constraint will not let you leave the space empty. Okay? If for a column, if you are leaving a space empty, it will not let you do so if you are mentioning not null. Okay? For that field. Right? Not null means the space cannot be left empty, it cannot be null. Okay? Okay. The next is primary key. Primary key means what? It is used to uniquely identify our data. Okay? The data must be unique. It tells you that the data that you are entering should be unique. No two columns will be duplicate. Getting? Next, unique. Unique is also like primary key. It will not let you have duplicate values, but here there is a possibility in unique that you can have a null value. In primary key you cannot have a null value, but in unique key you can have a null value. Both primary and unique will let you allow a unique data. Okay, will let you allow to enter only unique data. No duplicate rows, no redundancy. Okay? But the difference here is in unique you can have one null value, whereas in primary you cannot have a null value. You cannot leave the space empty. Okay? Next one, check. Check is nothing but a constraint that will check particular conditions. Okay? Checking the conditions. This is used to check conditions. The next is foreign key. Okay, before that, default. Default is nothing but, suppose if you are not entering any value in a field, if you are not specifying any value, by default it will take the value that you are specifying here at default. Okay, by default, if you are not specifying any value, it will take a default value. Okay. Next, foreign key. Foreign key is nothing but it is used to link two tables. Okay, we have seen this in our previous class, previous video as well in entity relationship model. We have seen this. Foreign key is used to link two tables. Okay? Suppose I have got one table, I have got another table. To link or to relate these two tables, I have got a foreign key. Okay? And in one table, two tables I am having, right? So the field, suppose I have got an ID here, same thing, ID. So if I have got a foreign key here, the same field will act as a primary key in another table. Okay? Suppose in a table one field is set as foreign key, so that same field in some other table will act as a primary key. Okay? Clear? So you're forming link between. Okay, the table which has got foreign key will act as a child table, will be called as a child table, and the one which is having primary key will act as a parent table. Okay? Parent table. Okay, we can also call this as a reference. Parent ko we can also call as reference table. Clear? Now let's see how to specify them. Yeah, for specifying the constraints we have got two different types. Either you can specify it during the creation of a table. While you're creating, you can specify it at that time, or after creating the table you can also specify the constraints. After creation, if you want to specify the constraints, you can do it with the help of alter command, which we have seen in our previous videos. Using the alter command, you can specify the constraints to the table or to the columns of a table after creating the table. Now if you want to specify the constraints while creating the table, while the creation of table, you can use this syntax. You are creating the table, right? Create table, table name, column, data type. We know this. After the column, if you want to specify the constraint, you can have the constraint name. Okay, you have got n number of columns, you can have n number of constraints, right? We have seen how to create a table in a previous video. Okay, so we are creating the table. At the time of creation, we have got constraint name along with the column name, along with the data type, name of the data type. We have got constraint name. Okay, a constraint. Clear? Okay, now let's see all these constraints in one single table. I'm not writing it separately. In one single table, I'll show you all the constraints. Suppose I'm creating a table for student. Okay, student table. So these are the fields, these are the columns a student will have. Let me just erase this. And okay, suppose this is a student table. You're creating a table for student. These are the fields, these are the columns that you want. So student name is a column created. Student name, the type is varchar2, the size is 20. And see, I want to make the student name as not null constraint. Okay, the name of the student cannot be empty. There will be a name for a student, there will be a name for a person, right? So I want to make this field as not null. Okay, so I'm writing here not null beside it. So what happens? This student name will become not null. So if you are entering the data into the table, if you are entering the data into the table, and if you are skipping this place, if you are not writing anything, it will give you a message saying that this field cannot be empty. Okay, clear? Next one, student ID. This is another column that I am creating. Student ID. Number 5, matlab number is a data type and 5 is the range or the size. Okay, see, ID or the roll number will be what? Unique. So I want to set this as a primary key. Every student will have a roll number and it cannot be empty. So that's the reason I'm not writing unique, I'm writing primary, because primary key will not have null values. Okay, will not accept any null value. So student ID or the student roll number will be unique. For every student there will be a unique roll number. Okay, no student will have two students will have same roll number. Okay, for that reason I'm making student ID as primary key. Okay, so this is now primary key. Suppose for student 1, suppose for example I've got one student and the roll number or ID is 1. Suppose for another student I'm writing same roll number. So this is not allowed here. Okay, it will give you a message that this place should be unique. You cannot have same value. Okay, the roll number should be different. Anything, but it should be different. It cannot duplicate. Okay, unique value should be entered into the column, student ID column. Okay, clear? Next one, student phone number. This is another field that I am creating, and the data type is number, range is 10. I am specifying this as unique. Okay, the phone number should be unique. I am saying that the phone number should be unique. Suppose there is a possibility that a person cannot have a roll number, so okay, you can leave that space, you can keep it empty. But if you are entering the value, then the phone number should be what? Unique. Okay, no two students can have same phone number, or you can leave the space blank in case you don't have a phone number. Okay, so this is now unique key. Okay, getting easy, right? Next one, student age. Okay, so I'm making one more column, that is student age, and the data type is number. Data type is number, size is 10. Okay, I am applying here a check constraint. Check constraint is used to check the conditions. Okay, so the condition I gave here is student age should be what? Student age should be greater than or equal to 18. Only then you can enter this field. Suppose if I'm entering 14. Suppose if I'm writing 14, this is not valid, this is not entered. Why? Because here before entering the data, the check constraint will check the age against it, whether it is greater than or equal to 18. Okay? What is it checking? The age. it should be greater than or equal to 18. If you are entering 14, suppose, so this is not valid. So this age will not be entered into the database. It will not be entered only. Okay? It will give you a message saying that the age should be greater than or equal to 18. Clear? So it is checking a condition before entering the data. The check constraint checks the condition. Okay? Next one, student address. I'm taking one more field, that is student address, varchar 20. Okay, suppose if the student, suppose if you're filling this table and if you don't fill this field, okay, if you don't fill it, by default it will be Hyderabad. It will be taken as Hyderabad, okay, because I specified it to be Hyderabad, the city to be Hyderabad or the address to be Hyderabad. By default it will take that value. Suppose if you don't fill this place, if you don't fill this field, by default what my constraint does, default constraint takes the value as Hyderabad. Clear? Easy, right? Okay, now let's see the final one, that is the foreign key. Foreign key is used to relate two tables. I told you it shows the it links the two different tables. Okay, suppose this is one table, right? Student table. Suppose I have one more table, that is marks table. Okay, suppose we have one more table, marks. Okay, we have a student table, we have got a marks table. Okay, so in marks table I'm making a column as student ID and I'm specifying this to be as a foreign key. So this is my foreign key. So if you see here, I've got student ID in this student table as well. I've got a student ID which is acting as a primary key, and I've got student ID in marks table which is acting as a foreign key. So this will become my parent table and this will become my child table. Okay, or this will be my master table or the reference table. Okay, the values of the student ID will be derived from this parent table. Okay, the values of student ID will be derived from this column or this table. Okay, clear? How to specify it? We'll be writing it this way: student ID. We are specifying the field. This is another table. This is not the same table. This is another table. Okay, for marks table we have got student ID, specifying the column name, data type with the size. Data type with the size is done. Then specifying the constraint. The constraint is foreign key, which is a reference to the student table of student ID. Okay, the student ID is a reference to the student ID of the student table. Okay, the student ID of the marks table is a reference to the student ID of the student table. Okay, this is how you are linking two tables. Suppose if I don't have a student ID here, suppose I'm saying I've got marks M1, M2, M3, M4, different marks of different subjects. So there is no connection between this and this. These are simply marks. These are simply the student details. Where is the connection? How should I know these are the marks of which students? Right? So there is no connection between this table and this table. There is no connection. How should I know these are the marks of whom? Right? To form a connection, we are picking up the primary key and placing it here in another table. Okay? Student ID. Okay, why only student ID? Why not any other thing? Why only primary key? Why not any other keys? See, not null keys, if I'm specifying not, suppose here primary key is letting you have a unique value, Suppose in not null, suppose you are taking student name, there is a possibility that two students can have the same name. So if you are writing here, instead of student ID, if you are writing here student name, so what happens if you are XYZ, two names, then these are the marks of which XYZ and these are the marks of which XYZ, right? So one more, unique key. Why not unique key? Unique key is also having unique values, no duplicate values, but in unique keys we can have null values. So you will be having marks against whom? If there is no value, you will be having marks against whom? Null matlab empty. You are leaving this place empty, but you are having marks in this. The marks hai kiske? How you will know, right? Similarly, if you are taking check constraint ka field, if it is age, So it is possible that two students will have same age. How are you going to identify it? So for that reason, we are taking primary key. We are making primary key as a reference key for the child table. Clear? Understood? So this was all about the constraints of SQL and how we are going to specify them. Okay? In a program, how we are going to specify them. I hope it is clear. I hope you understood. If you have got any doubts, let me know in the comment section below. Okay? Thank you.